I'm Sasha Nicole.
I'm Star.
And I'm Dr. T.
And this is Amerikan Therapy, the definitive podcast on all things Black mental health. And we are back again. So how have you ladies been doing as the world is opening back up?
Good, excellent.
Yeah, I actually drove all the way across the country to visit my parents. So, because I wasn't getting on no plane, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I actually just got off of the plane. I decided to go to Mexico. It was much needed, amazing, and I'm really excited. It was definitely a good little getaway. So
I'm jealous, so jealous.
Yeah. So, Star, what are we talking about today?
Are they giving free trips to Mexico? You're the third Black person I know that said they just came back from Mexico.
Listen, the trip was not free, definitely.
Okay. All right. So today we're going to talk about something many of us have done or have been a victim to, infidelity. So what to do when you are unfaithful and or being treated unfaithfully.
Yeah, so we're excited today. We have Dr. Laura Lewis, who's a keynote speaker, psychologist, and author. She has over 10 years of experience providing relationship blueprint for angry couples looking to heal after infidelity, cultivate better intimacy, and enhance communication. She has conducted hundreds of seminars transforming relationships worldwide, including experience in Brazil, Mexico, Asia, Europe, Africa, and Haiti, affectionately called the marriage architect. Her book, Marital Peace, is a valuable resource to uplift distant couples out of marital challenges so that they can start experiencing love like you couldn't imagine. Not only does she provide her signature programs for corporations, community organizations, and universities, but she also trains other psychologists. So welcome, Dr. Laura Lewis. We're excited to have you.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So do you like to be called Dr. Laura, Dr. L? Like, what do you go, like, how you want us to call you?
Dr. Laura is perfect. Yeah, you can call me Dr. Laura.
Okay, so Dr. Laura, let's get on into it. The marriage architect. That's a strong architect. So help us understand, because what we see, we had a show about bad stats, is a lot of times Black married couples aren't always staying together. There's a lot of different experiences that we're going through, disadvantages, infidelity, all types of things. So let's just dig deep into what you've been able to do and transform with couples dealing with this topic.
Well, I see a lot of couples turn to me when they're like on the brink, where they're like, all right, I don't know if our relationship can make it. Like, somebody has called the divorce attorney, like somebody has moved out, they're sleeping in separate bedrooms. And so that's when usually couples like call to schedule an appointment or to get enrolled in the After I Do Academy. And so a lot of times I see just hurt, hurt from the betrayal, sometimes a disconnection, sometimes just feeling like their needs aren't getting met. That's a lot of what I see.
Like, when you get into therapy, how frequent is the infidelity the actual issue?
Usually the infidelity is just the tip of the iceberg. Usually it's something else that's happened just before the infidelity that has caused distance to grow. And then the infidelity is just the way that it shows up. It's just kind of the symptom of a bigger problem. And so part of working with a couples therapist is really uncovering what the deeper issue is, so that couples can start to heal. That's a big part of the work.
What oftentimes are your biggest things that you see that are underneath the infidelity? Like, when you have a person come in and they're like, oh, this person cheated, but really as you start to peel away the onion layers, what's some of those things you see most often?
When couples transition to parenthood, that's usually when we see a decrease in intimacy, because like you're tired, you gotta wake up with the baby all the time, and the last thing you're thinking about is having sex most of the time. And so then someone starts to feel like they're not seen or they're not noticed, and then someone else shows them that attention that they're missing. So that's a lot of it. It's just feeling like your needs aren't being met, not having sex or not having a good intimate connection, sometimes not feeling comfortable in your body, like feeling like, your body image is off. And so those are some of the things that I see that comes up. And in other cases, couples can have like a child-centered marriage where all they talk about is the kids. Let me get Keisha to ballet practice. Let me get Kamal to basketball practice. And it's just no time for one another. And so it's like they're living parallel lives where you might be coming home every night, but it's no real, like, I see you, I hear you, you matter to me, those kind of conversations.
How important is sex in a marriage? Because I know, like, a lot of times, like, and I'm generalizing, so whatever, but I'm thinking probably how most people think. Like, a lot of times women, you think like, I'm busy, I got kids, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and you're like, yeah, but we're together. So like, yeah, I don't feel like having sex, but we're together. How important is sex? Like, is it like critical to a marriage?
I think
to a relationship, because some people.
Yeah, like a lot of times I hear more of my men clients saying that, like, you don't care about me, you don't love me, like, because of not having sex. Like, and so a lot of times for men will attribute more of the meaning of not having sex to being a problem, whereas like more of my women clients is not as much of a priority, sex. Like, if you cuddling or if we like spending time together, then we good.
That is our sex.
Well, I was about to say, one point that Dr. Laura made that is, I think really should be amplified is what happens before the infidelity, whether it's days, weeks, months, or years before, is that distance that grows. And usually it's a lack of intimacy. So for women, intimacy can include sex, doesn't always, but for men, pretty much always includes sex. So when that distance grows and there's not as much intimacy, and also for women, intimacy involves conversation and communication. And so it could be on either side, but oftentimes the expression of sexual infidelity is what people focus on, but it's really what happened before that, where the distance grew, where the lack of intimacy, and women are often seeking the emotional intimacy that oftentimes leads to sex, not intentionally, that women will always say, I didn't mean for it to happen. But men are like, oh yeah, I meant for it to happen.
I went out to get me some. What is intimacy? Before we go, like, because I have an idea, but what the hell is intimacy?
One of the things that I teach my clients in the After I Do Academy is that there are levels to intimacy. Mm-hmm. So one level of intimacy is emotional intimacy. Like, did you hear me? Did what I say matter to you? Can I bring you my sadness and you acknowledge it or validate it? So that's emotional intimacy. And then physical intimacy, it can include sex, but some of the other things too, like kissing, hugging, caressing, non-sexual touches. Also spiritual intimacy. For some couples, they want to feel like, the way I find meaning in the world, my values, we have a connection there. And if I can't spiritually connect with you, then it's harder for me to open up to you in other ways. For some couples, spiritual intimacy is the main area. And then it's social intimacy, like us doing things together. Like, are we cooking together? Can we go to the grocery store together? Can we watch a movie? Like, just doing things together is a part of that bonding experience. So if we're not spending any time together, for some couples, it's hard for there to be fireworks in the bedroom if we haven't spent any time together throughout the day. And then the fifth level is intellectual intimacy. So that can include things like exchanging ideas or politics or what's going on in the news. And so for some couples, it's the need for like intellectual stimulation before we can get to the more like physical stimulation.
People to really understand that that's a real thing.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like sometimes people dismiss the idea that that type of stimulation can oftentimes trigger the physical stimulation. So, so Dr. Laura, when you talk about all of these things, what happens when the couples came to the brink, infidelity is taking place, because I know infidelity is more your structure of specialty. How do you recover after that?
Well, it's things that both partners need to do. For the partner that cheated, it's a willingness to acknowledge, like, I'm sorry that I hurt you. I know this has had a huge impact on your ability to trust me. And so that apology process, accountability, and transparency, because it's going to be difficult for the betrayed partner to start to trust again if they're first not acknowledging and being open now about things. So honesty is a part of the work for the partner who cheated. For the partner who is cheated on, a lot of times there's anxiety, like you say you going to the store, but are you really at the store? So working through coping with anxiety. Also, sometimes there can be feelings of depression, like I can't believe this is where we are. If this is where we are, I don't even want to go on anymore. I don't even want to just face life anymore. So working through the depression is key for the betrayed partner.
I mean, I think the other thing too is that the couple has to, because it's easy to get caught up in the act of infidelity as the deal breaker. But if you don't address, like Dr. Laura said, whatever led up to that, then you just spin your wheels with all those negative emotions around the infidelity, and you can't heal. And if you can't heal, then you can't rebuild. And so it's both parties being willing to acknowledge that, yes, the infidelity happened, but also there's something between the two of us that led to that happening. And that's oftentimes hard for the person that didn't cheat, because they feel like they should be able to be in the wrong. I mean, they were wronged and they should be vindicated and they shouldn't have to look at nothing. And so that actually sometimes takes some work.
But how do you, like you said, Dr. T, how does a couple start recognizing? Because oftentimes the person who feels betrayed, like you mentioned, will have a hard time even acknowledging that there have been things prior to the infidelity happening that they've even contributed to. So it's like, as a couple, how do you start distinguishing, like, hey, like there's something that's leading up here that may not be a good thing? Because we always like kind of skip over, ignore that part, and we jump right into the offense rather than, as you guys are both eloquently saying, what happened to the offense. So it's like, what are couples oftentimes missing to even recognize that there are offenses occurring prior?
I think empathy, like being willing to like totally step out of your shoes and step into your partner's shoes and say, like, I got it wrong. There are some things that I did to contribute to this disconnection. Maybe I could have handled things differently. I have been like traveling a lot and more distant, and if we're going to work on this, and if we really want our relationship, then I'm going to have to look in myself too.
Mm-hmm. How do you cultivate empathy? Because that's something that, like, in our society is, I don't want to say missing, but it's something, one, misunderstood, and two, many of us, we don't grow up with even learning what it is, and like, we just trying to make it.
Yeah,
trying to survive.
I think you raise a good point that it's not necessarily something that everybody may not know how to do. And I think that's where counseling comes in, is having someone to model like how to hold space for your partner's feelings. Like, that's what I do with my clients, is I might demonstrate like holding space and empathy, and then there's watching me do that, watching me rephrase like what they have said in a way that is more empathetic, and then it allows for them to see, okay, that's probably how I could have said it differently, or, and so there's some element of social modeling that happens. And then sometimes you get it in your family. Like, sometimes like part of your family is you see how your parents communicated, whether effective or it's okay to like them.
Just throwing things and cussing at each other. That is not effective, I don't think, right? Okay, just making sure.
So I'm coming to you, I'm sitting on your couch, I'm ready to get a divorce, my spouse is cheated, I don't know if I want to do this no more. What's your first step in counseling us?
So the first step is getting a clear sense of what your best hopes are for your relationship. I like to gauge also commitment level, like on a scale 1 to 10, how committed are you to this? And then also looking at how things can be different. So instilling a level of hope, because in addition to being a psychologist, I'm also a researcher. And so I look at the research and I see that couples are healing after this, and not just healing, but in a number of cases, couples' relationships are improving. And so a lot of people may say, improving, like I go through infidelity, my relationship get better. But it's because of some of the things that we talked about, because now you're facing some of those deeper issues. Now you're looking at like how the distance has grown. Now you're getting new strategies on how you can build some boundaries when it comes to dealing with other people outside of the relationship.
Y'all know I got it. Y'all go ahead, because y'all know I got it on in there.
Go ahead now.
So when you say that, if people follow the show or know me, they know my thoughts on infidelity in general. But when you say that it can improve, or when you say that people start to heal, is it perhaps because infidelity from the beginning isn't really the issue? That our concept at times is a little misconstrued as to it being all about you cheated on me.
Yeah.
Like maybe if we were a little bit more honest in our positioning of our capability to be with one person.
Oh Lord.
Here goes the left. Here goes the left.
I know we're not gonna go left. We're gonna stay in the lane. We're gonna stay in the lane. But is it possible that maybe couples need to come together in the beginning or take a look at what they truly need?
Yeah, and I've had some people say that, I'm just not a monogamous person. I'm not built that way. And
how do you help that couple?
Oh Lord.
We gotta have real conversations.
Come on.
About like, okay, so what does that look like? Sometimes couples are in what's called a polyamorous relationship, where there's some agreed upon openness around the boundaries of the relationship. And I think that that's different than infidelity, because you're in agreement. You're saying, hey, this is what we are agreeing to, and we understand where the limitations lie. We understand like what the rules are, and everybody has different rules on, what's okay and what's not okay. For some people, they want to know. For other people, they're like, all right, as long as you're not falling in love, as long as you're not trying to move her in, as long as it only goes up to this point, then this is how we're gonna do it.
But see, that's where
let me add this because that goes right back to the communication. When people are comfortable communicating, they can tell each other what they need. And what happens, I think, sometimes when people are trying to fit an image, or they love the other person so much they want to do what they think is conventional, or they want to do what they think the other person wants, but they sacrifice their own needs and their own happiness. And then that just is a road to infidelity. And so really the communication, the honesty about what you want and what you need, so that the other person can make a conscious choice. And that's, that's really, whatever is consensual to two adults is fine. But when you go and do something outside of the bounds of what we agreed on, then it's not consensual anymore. And that's not fair.
And how do you because sometimes you could tell somebody who you are, but we all know what is different between being like, no, this is how I want and will have my whatever relationship, versus I want to get to this place. I want to check this box. Everybody wants a marriage, a partner, something, something that's significant, right? Because you get caught up. You like, well, they heard me, I'm assuming. Maybe not. And then the other thing, I have questions about, because people who have open marriages and open relationships, we talk about, okay, the rules of intimacy. Well, in my mind, intimacy, you can't really have rules on intimacy in a sense, because it's we're getting to know each other's deepest levels. I don't know where the fuck this is gonna go. I mean, you can't tell somebody to fuck somebody, to go on dates with somebody, but don't fall in love. Because we can be in love with multiple people.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, a lot of times men have the capacity to remove that emotion out of that, you know, so.
I challenge that because as a barber, being around, no, because I'm serious, like being around men and hearing their more intimate conversations with each other, I don't know if they're that much different. I honestly think that they say that to sometimes women that they know they're not interested in at like a deeper level. But men get caught up too. They get caught up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are some men that do get caught up. I think that and just in my experience and being a couples therapist, I do see that there can be more of a capacity for it to just be physical. Like, I just had an itch and I need that itch scratched, and you scratched it and that felt good. I mean, sometimes that's what I see a lot of. Whereas for women, I see when women cheat, it's more of like an emotional connection. Like, you get me, you understand me, and then I see the infidelity starting after that. I don't see that as much in the reverse, where for the woman it just starts straight physical.
So when you know, speaking of men, because a lot of times we always, I think society paints the narrative of cheating as like the woman has been betrayed. But what about like the men? Like, how do you help couples who come in and it's the man who feels hurt? And not only would he may feel hurt, but there's a stigma attached to a man working it out, rather than it's an expectation for a woman to work it out. But it's like for a man, no one ever addresses that.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. T and Dr. Laura, you know, chime in on that.
There are definitely gender differences that exist when it comes to infidelity and the rebuilding part. A lot of times for men, where I see that men get stuck the most around the rebuilding is when they can like getting stuck on imagining their partner physically with someone else. And so when there's been like a video or they've caught them like in the act, or even just in their mind, visually imagining their partner with somebody else, that's where I see that a lot of times for men who've been cheated on, that's the struggle that they have to come to an impasse on and work through. Whereas for women, a lot of times I see for women, it's a struggle on, well, did you love her? Were you planning on leaving me? Like, is there some type of emotional attachment to this person? That's where I see women struggle more with the rebuilding process.
So how do you help them rebuild? Like, what does rebuilding look like?
It looks like acknowledgement. It looks like open, honest communication. It looks like forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of the later stages of the healing process, because it's hard to just step right into forgiveness, especially if the person doesn't feel safe, like feel like it's not going to happen again. And so oftentimes there needs to be some ending of the situation. And it's hard for the person to not be a part of that, like for them not to have some assurity that it's definitely over between that other person.
How do you, like, when you get to that point where maybe one or both people are like, okay, this, not even, we don't have to hate each other, but this ain't gonna work, and we're not gonna be able to continue with this. How do you help unravel something? Because sometimes it's like you could be breaking up with somebody for 25 years.
Great question. And there's different types of counseling. One form of counseling is called discernment counseling. It's born out of the work of Bill Doherty, where it's focused on how can we just end this amicably? How can we work this out so we don't hurt the kids too much? How can we work out just like some of the details of how we're going to make this mediation process work effectively? And so for some couples, that's the type of therapy that is going to be most effective for them.
And it takes a willingness, on both parts to engage in that process. And usually, there's always anger and hurt and pain first. And so people have to have some process of moving through that in order to get to amicable, right? Because, you have women or men that were cheated on 25 years ago, and you would have thought it was yesterday, because they have never dealt with the hurt, the pain, and the anger. And so it's like forefront right in their minds. And so in order for people to get to the amicable, they have to go through that. And some people aren't willing to go through pain.
How do you get out of, because I've been in a situation where like you're so angry and you're comfortable being angry with the person. Mm-hmm. You don't hate them, you love them, you want to move on, everybody wants to move on, everybody wants to whatever, have a peaceful whatever, whether it's an end or a reconciliation, but you're just so angry and you get comfortable being angry where you like every time y'all have a conversation, every time y'all get 30 minutes quiet alone, it's like we go right back to the same issues. You just cannot get off the problems because everybody's like, I'm like, well, you did this to me. And you did this to me, bitch. And so then it's just like, how do you get off of that record?
Everybody has an emotional home, and the emotional home is like their like natural state of being. And some people is like their natural state of being is angry, no matter what. Like they find themselves like angry in every situation, just complaining is always a problem. But I think you have to decide, like you have to make a decision. Sometimes there's things in life that's just, I'm deciding that I'm not gonna live in this place anymore. I'm deciding that I'm committed to my own healing. Like, and that's part of forgiveness is I don't want to stay in this space with you. Like, I don't want to keep reliving these emotions over and over again. And I see that as forgiveness. Forgiveness is a commitment to, there are, like, I can't change yesterday. Yesterday happened. It's a commitment that I cannot do anything about yesterday, and I'm committed to my tomorrow. And sometimes that means that means reconciliation of the relationship. And sometimes that means in order for us to parent most effectively, that we decide to separate. But I have seen couples work through this and get on the other side, and I've seen couples make the decision not to. You know, it just depends.
And one of the things I always teach people is anger is a secondary emotion, which means there's something underneath the anger, and anger is safe because you can be mad, you can be furious, but what is really underneath it? Are you disappointed? Are you scared? Are you sad? And when you get to that emotion, that's when you can move past the anger. That's when you can start to heal. But as long as you hold on to the anger, means you're not willing to find out what you're really feeling, which is going to hurt more.
So like when you say that and you talk about sometimes people aren't willing to address the pain, or people aren't even willing to go underneath of whatever exists under that anger. But let's say you do. Let's say you're sitting in a place where you're like, I am in pain. Like, how do we move past that? Because, and I know it's like not a one size fits all answer, but I think a lot of times when people think of therapy, like they are looking for an answer. Like they're looking like, how do I move past this pain? Do I sit in it? Do I read a book? Do I talk about it? Like, what helps rebuild me to that place where I can look past the pain?
I think part of looking past the pain is getting coping skills. Like some of us don't have coping skills, like and so that means we got to learn coping skills. It could be journaling. For some people, they need some time alone to like write out their thoughts, to get it out. For some people, they need a physical release, and so doing jujitsu or running or like having a physical release is a way of coping. For some people, it's taking a hot bath and having some time where they light their lavender candles and recenter themselves. But I think you gotta search your own, like you gotta be willing to introspect and say, well, what is that thing for me? Like, what is that thing that I need that helps me get out of how I'm feeling? And so self-soothing is a big part of coping skills. And then communication helps, like being willing to go into that vulnerable space and say, like, I'm hurting, like this was painful. That can allow for like a cathartic release of emotions.
Mm-hmm. And you know, all of that Dr. Laura just described is what I would call taking back your power. You start to take care of yourself, use your own voice, speak what you are feeling and what you need. Oftentimes in relationships, one person starts to wither away, and that's the person that is dealing probably with the most pain, and they're afraid to use their own voice to even ask for help. And then their partner can get distant because they know that something's going on, but they can't reach you. So that's how that two-way street can work. So whatever it takes for you to start to regain your power, and usually that means taking care of yourself first. And that's really hard for people, because especially women, we take care of our kids, our husbands, our parents, our siblings, our community, and we're last. And so when something happens to us, we don't know how to manage that because we don't have coping skills, right? And we haven't used our own power and our own self-efficacy to stand up for who we are and what we want.
Are there tools we can practice? Like, I keep hearing the theme of communication. Are there books or things that we can go, like if I can't afford therapy, because that's what people often say, whether it's true or not, because you got a Fendi bag, but I can't afford therapy. What are there tools that I can go look up and learn how to communicate appropriately? Because like many of us, I was like 35 when I learned like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to listen to somebody.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that's a great question, because there are a lot of people that may not be able to afford therapy, but maybe you could afford a $20 book. Like, I wrote this book, Marital Peace, and Marital Peace is a resource that I put together from just really born out of my own pain and going through things like this. Like, I've been with my husband for over 17 years, and we definitely have experienced our share of challenges, and so I write about that in the book Marital Peace. And then also I have a YouTube channel where I've done like just over 1,000 workshops. And so whenever I get a question that I've been asked more than once, then I just record a quick video on there. So definitely that's a resource. I have a group, it's called Black Marriage Matters, and it's over 10,000 couples in there. And so it's being in spaces and communities where you create your own village. Because just like we know the saying of it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a village to build a solid relationship. And maybe if you're not around other people that are building a healthy, solid relationship, then being in spaces where you can create what you want and what you need, that can be an avenue.
I got one last one from because I'm thinking of this, since this is like, everybody's black love, which I love black love. I like black, white love, all of it, black, Asian love, all of it, right? But because this, you ain't like no black, Asian love, girl, my prom date was Filipino. See,
I had a Filipino before, and I mean, that's another show. We're gonna talk about that interracial.
Okay, so I'm coming back to a question. With what I'm observing, I'm in my 40s, my early 40s, and what I'm starting to observe is that there's so much desire for black love that sometimes, and in married couple circles and couple circles, period, but especially in like black married couple circles, there seems to be this like we're not talking about things that are like, nah, this nigga just smacked me in my face. Oh, I said the N-word. I'm sorry, y'all. We'll bleep it out. But like, the things that are really, really, really hot. Not that you put your business out there, because we learn don't do that as kids. But like, there's such a focus on the pictures, the Instagram, that we're a happy couple, that there's not like, it just still doesn't seem like we're ready to have like honest marital conversations beyond just like, oh, everything's perfect, or we're going through a rough patch. No, we are fighting each other in the house. I have a boyfriend, he has a girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, and we are each living completely separate lives. I have friends I know for years have lived separate lives, but in public it's like, black love, like you would never, unless you just really, really, really knew them.
Well, like Dr. Laura said, I think more and more couples are trying to find community where they can be authentically who they are. It's risky to reveal yourself to another couple until if you guys, vibe or whatever. So I know, in the past, a lot of Black couples found that community at church, right? There was that's been going on for a long time, the Black married couples ministries, Sometimes they were more authentic than others, but usually you just found other people that you could click with, right? Now, through online and things like that, you can find communities right in your home, but the people may be all over the world. And so it's just your willingness to reach out and to know that that's real. So they may still present to you and I, but they may have a community behind them that's helping them through those struggles. I mean, we don't know.
Sasha, you know what I'm talking about. Like, I see, and it might be an age thing. It might be generational too, that there's so much pressure because of social media and, you know, to like put an image out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I know exactly what you're talking about. While I am younger, you know that I'm also a lot more transparent. And sometimes it's that transparency that has gotten me into some deep trouble. Because people, like you said, even in a lot of groups, tribes, it's like sometimes people don't recognize the value of sharing things with other couples or trying to build something with other couples to really try to maybe get over hurdles or just to keep it honest. It's like, as you mentioned, Star, in our Black community, there's just so much secrecy, like you can't share nothing. Or the judgment, when it's like, bro, like, I know, I just saw you with someone, I know you going through it. Let's talk about it. And we don't really want to like talk about it. And I'm one of those who's like, oh, let's talk. I want to talk because I'm trying to, you know, I want to try to figure it out, because people also like have this ideal. And when I often hear people talk about marriage, it's like, and I mean this from a sincere place, but I just feel like so many people be lying. Like they create this image of like of marriage is this ideal fairy tale, what it's supposed to be, and I just, or that we don't really have certain issues, and I mean every married couple that I know are going through a variety of different things, and more than likely are not willing to share it. And I think that sometimes and most of these couples I see put things on social media all the time.
Girl, it be the ones you know.
and so there is that pressure of like, like Black love. We gotta, rather than, like, yes, I'm advocate, Black love. Let's talk about how we're even getting this Black love to last next year. Cause I don't know. Or, you know, so I think that should be encouraged more. Even you take a look at the whole, like the red table talk thing, and that's a different thing. But it's like people like slam the idea of them having a what they may say is an open and honest conversation. But in some of those same people, once again, I'm like,
we all agree. We know what you're doing. Everybody know, everybody messed with. Come on now.
You know, or you going through something where maybe you're not having a cheating issue, but you're having a domestic violence issue. Maybe you're not having that issue, but you're having a finance issue, and one of you are the only people supporting certain things. Or, or maybe there's an issue with, y'all got this beautiful family, these kids, and your husband is not helping you at all with those kids, or or vice versa. So it's like, there's so many different things. And I think, like, why are we be forgiving white people all the time, like for everything. But we don't talk about the forgiveness that's taking place in our own homes and the strength that requires and the work that requires. So, I don't know.
Well, I was going to say,
y'all
the experts though, doctors.
two things. First, I was going to say, I don't think it's generational, because I can honestly say I know couples that have been together 25, 30 years that are having the exact same issue that you're describing. And it's that they don't want their church friends to know what they're going through, or their neighbors to know what they're going through. And just because I happen to be a close friend of theirs, I'm like, these people don't even speak to each other. And they are, anyway, I won't say anything because they could be identified quite easily.
What that Christmas photo look like now, T?
But it's not generational. I do think it is an issue in the Black community that is self-imposed, right? We are trying to keep up with the Joneses, the white people, the Asian people. So we are trying to present these images instead of being honest with each other about what we need and who we are. Sometimes the things that are plaguing us in the Black community, we are creating and manifesting and continuing to perpetrate on our own. So I think if more people were willing to have the kind of conversations that we're hoping to spear by this, podcast tonight, that we'll begin to see some of that healing. But it's definitely it's not like white people are sitting out there saying, oh, we want to see Black love. It's not the white people that are pushing this on us. This is, something that we are struggling with on our own.
But I think it's because we're struggling against the stereotype that Black love doesn't exist. And,
exactly.
We're always struggling against Black men only, are now, they only want white women, or Black women aren't beautiful, or, all of our marriages are ending in divorce. And it's not true. There's a lot of white people getting divorced. There's a lot of, same thing. Look, Jeff Bezos, he cut the check,
When a man give you almost $500 million to get gone.
And already had his girlfriend when he cut the check. Nobody talks about the possibilities of how we can be amicable. So we do, like you said, Dr. T, create this narrative of us trying to prove something, or it's like you always hear the stereotype of Black men cheating, but white men cheat, Asian men cheat, Hispanic men cheat, like all types of men and women, period, commit infidelity or whatever the terms of your agreement are. And so, we're just fighting to prove against this narrative that's been painted against us, rather than living in and working towards how we can move and do things more amicably, like some of our racial counterparts. Because, Dave and I was just talking about the situation with The Rock. His ex-wife is his business partner, and he's with his current wife. So, we don't talk about it's a little controversial, but the Russell Simmons and how him and Kimora was going on trips with their spouses or people they was messing with together. So, I think that's where that honesty will lead us into a real ideology of what we can be, rather than trying to prove a hashtag.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I totally agree, because it's hard. Relationships have ebbs and flows. You may break up and get back together, years later. But that's truthful though, that it's not this linear thing. Even if you stay married, even if you stay in that committed relationship, it will never be linear. So then I ask the question, should your therapist, if you at the point where y'all gotta go sit on the couch, or which maybe we should all have been on the couch, but if we there together, more than likely we gotta be here. This is the last stand. Should you find someone who can acknowledge, or one is someone who's married or has been married, and two, a therapist that maybe has dealt or is at least has an expertise in the area of the thing, like infidelity or whatever is challenging your relationship. Because sometimes you go to somebody that you she or he don't have no clue what the hell I'm talking about, or you can see they picking sides. You can tell that the therapist is oh, I believe him. Oh, I believe her. I'm just being real. You can tell.
Yeah, you need to see somebody that has expertise in what you are looking to focus on. It's like, if I have a heart problem, I want to see a cardiologist, and I want to see a good cardiologist. If you're on a plane, you want to fly with a pilot that has been through some things, not just flown and assimilated air, but somebody who has gone through a thunderstorm. And so I think it's the same way when it comes to your mental health. Make sure that you have a connection with that person. Make sure that that person has expertise in the area that you want to focus on, because all therapists have different expertise. They're sex therapists, they're therapists that specialize in infidelity, they're child therapists. And so you want to just make sure that you're taking the time. If you are going to invest in seeing someone, make sure that you take the time and really vet that person,
Can you ask the therapist, hey, are you married or have you been divorced yourself? Just to get, or is that just inappropriate?
I'm open as a therapist. I tend to have some levels of self-disclosure, but all therapists are not like that. It just depends on the person. Some people are more like, in general, the therapist is not going to be sharing with you all of their things because that's inappropriate, but some questions like, are you married? Do you have experience with this? I think is reasonable questions to ask. Now, when you start getting into the intimate details of what's going on in your therapist's life, like, what you here for? Like, let's focus on what's going on with you. You know what I'm saying? So I think having some balance with it is important.
So Dr. Laura, as an infidelity specialist, at what point do you tell your couple that you can't help them? That maybe, do you ever say, maybe divorce should be an option? Like, when is it like the fork has met the road? I don't know if it's something that I can do for y'all.
I don't believe that it's my role as the couples therapist to tell a couple that they need to separate. I will give them feedback in terms of, this is the roadmap. Like, if you want to go down this roadmap, this is what is going to be involved. But I'm not going to say you need to leave or you need to stay. Like, that's not my role. And so I give them the roadmap. I give them the blueprint. I hold their hand. I hold space for what is going to need to be involved in the healing journey, unless there is one caveat, unless there's an issue of safety. Safety trumps everything. If I think that we're going to get into some stuff and then somebody going to get beat over the head, then that's a whole different conversation. And so aside from safety, then that's kind of how I move as a therapist.
So you mentioned the roadmap, though. Can you just give some brief detail as to, what a roadmap could potentially look like?
Sure, good question. So some of the things that's involved in the roadmap is transparency, openness, trust promoting behavior. So if I run to the bathroom every time I'm on the phone, that's not a trust promoting behavior. If I'm sleeping with the phone under my pillow, like, that's not a trust promoting behavior. And so just making sure that I'm open, I'm honest, I'm acknowledging the impact of what's happened. I'm having accountability. That's a big part of it. And then also for the other partner, just being willing to acknowledge their part, empathy, understanding, communication, being willing to compromise. All of those things are important parts of the roadmap.
And I agree with what Dr. Laura said. And just to emphasize what you said, Star, it's not the therapist's job to make that decision for you. So getting help doesn't mean they help you decide you're going to stay married or get a divorce. It means they help you reach your goal, whether your goal is to stay married or get a divorce, because it's whichever one you decide as a couple is where you want to be after exploring all the options and everything and seeing if you can do whatever it is you want to do. Then I'm here to help you, whatever that is. If you guys decide that, we've been through this, we can't handle this pain, the best thing for us to do is figure out how to co-parent, then let's figure out how to get there. And so it's really, ultimately about where the couple wants to go. And then even if they decide to divorce, they still need all those things that Dr. Laura just said. And that's what people forget. Like, divorce doesn't change the two people that are having the problem. If you have kids, it just means you have to deal with this person and their problems, and you don't live in the same house.
That much harder.
That much harder.
I hate you. Okay, now look.
Right.
I need you to put $5,000 in the bank account.
I need you to take the kid to dance class, and I need you to make sure that they have shoes for football. And, it's like, all those things don't change just because someone had an affair and you decide to get a divorce. So if the issue was communication, if the issue was trust, you're still going to have those issues, and you're going to need to figure it out in order to effectively co-parent if children are involved.
What should we be, as we kind of like, what should we, as we talk about infidelity once you're in the relationship, what conversations are we not having that we should be having as we enter into committed relationships? And like, how do we be honest with ourselves? Because a lot of times we find ourselves in a very, very long-term relationship, and then you're like, even if that person cheated, be like, yo, it ain't even that person, it's me. Mm-hmm. I wasn't honest. I said I wanted something that I do not want.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm healthier and I'm weller or whatever, I know that's not a word, but like now that my vision is clear and I see that I can have what I want now I really don't want this.
Yeah. I have an answer. You want to go first, Dr. Laura?
Let me make sure I got the question. So what do you do when what you expected, like what conversation should you be having in the beginning? That's the question.
In the beginning, to be like more, like, so that you can really be honest with yourself. Because I'll be honest, like my relationship issues really, and they're not like, you know, really infidelity or that stuff. It's more of not being honest with what I want. And then just being like, well, at 15 years ago, this is the best I thought I could do, or this is what I thought was like here. Now that I'm a lot healthier and well and mentally, you know, at a better place, I see I could actually have what I want, and I'm more clear about what I want. So like, how do you have those conversations with the other person, but probably more importantly with yourself?
So I'll say this is my answer.
Okay, go ahead.
And Dr. Laura can think about it some more.
You get what I'm saying now?
No, so I think the conversation that couples don't have is about how do we handle growth? Because all of us grow, all of us change, and we feel like, well, we said this when we were 18, 21, 30, 45, you put in the age, and now I've grown, I've matured, I've lived life. And I don't know how to communicate that to you. And so I hide myself, which creates that distance, which decreases the intimacy and can lead to, infidelity. So we never learn how to talk about growth and change. We make the promises at the beginning of relationships about being with who you are right now, but what about who I'm going to be in 6 months, in 1 year, in 5 years? And we don't know how to talk about how do we grow together. Not that we have to be the same person, but how do we honor and respect each other as we become the people that we're going to be?
I think people oftentimes, you know, most couples, there's one person who's typically not going to accept or honor that growth. You know, when I look at who I was 5 years ago and the person that I am today, it's completely different. And it's like, I feel like, you know, in most situations, the woman or the man, you know, and especially we can, you know, talk about me and a lot of the weight that I've lost. Like when you kind of enter into something in one state of mind and go into a new state of mind, most of the time, you know, men aren't very accepting of like this new person. Women, the same way. When that man, you know, maybe he's lost weight, or maybe he thought that he wanted a committed relationship when he got into it. Maybe he really believed that, or she really believed that notion. And then years later, they say, this ain't what I want. You know, I've changed. And it's like it's because it's like, maybe we're afraid, like if I have that conversation with you for real, you're gonna say, that's it. I can't accept that. And if you can't accept that, then that means you can't accept me. And then if you can't accept me, well then goddamn, like that means that we probably gonna have to split. And now I'm even more afraid, because if I lose you, now I'm losing what I know that I have in you. So,
but you've also lost what you had in yourself if you're not willing to be true to who you are. And so that's always the catch. So
but it's my feelings.
But you know me, you guys know this has been my mantra since day one. It's all about communication. And communication starts with knowing what you want and knowing who you are and being, you know, unabashedly unashamed about saying that. And that takes growth. Most people don't come out of the womb or even hit, you know, 18 or 20 with that skill set.
So it's like, hearing what you're saying is you basically have to not only accept that, but accept yourself and be willing to stand on it, or take the risk of losing who you become.
Mm-hmm. But how do you cultivate that level of like willingness to be who stand on what you say you want, intrinsically want, versus because there's always that opportunity cost of like, I'm going to lose something. Like you can't take everything with you. So how do you cultivate the muscle to be okay to say, I'm going to go get what I want and I'm okay. And I know and I accept that I have to let some things go to get to that thing I want. Because that's what keeps people, in my observation, in relationships that aren't bad, but it's just like, it's not what you want. You're making the other person miserable because you ain't getting what you want. And it's like, well, I'm here because I don't want to lose what I know I have.
But sometimes, though, what we want we know ain't good for us. Sometimes what we want is something temporary. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes a lot of people are smart enough to know, well, what I want, what I really want, like, I want that, but I don't want it for a long time. You know, so, I mean, I don't know. But
like, how do you cultivate? Because most of these conversations are really conversations we need to have with ourselves. How do you cultivate space for yourself to have that level of honesty with yourself about, and like you said, Sasha, like maybe what I want isn't good for me, but it's still what you want. So if you still want it and your partner ain't what you want, you still kind of like, that's like a level of infidelity because you emotionally don't want what you have and you got this person just hanging around. How do we like be more honest with ourselves?
I mean, it is just a constant, it's a muscle, right? You know, like every other muscle in your body, if you don't exercise it, it's not going to be strong when you need it. And so it's funny, many of us are better at standing up for other people than we are for standing up for ourselves. So, you know, one trick that therapists always use is pretend like you're doing it for someone else. If you were telling your best girlfriend or your brother or your sister about how to handle this situation, what would you tell them? And then do that for yourself. Because most of us have that muscle, we just don't use it for ourselves.
So Dr. Laura, as we close out, what is something you feel like, as Star was touching on earlier, what's a conversation we should have prior to getting into our relationships, prior to getting in our marriages that cover infidelity?
I think talking about what constitutes infidelity, because everybody has a different definition. Like for some people, it's like, why are you commenting on her page? For some people, it's like, well, if you're going to lunch with somebody else, you need to let me know that. Like, I don't want to just find out that you didn't went to lunch with your ex. And for some people, it's just sex. Like, if you ain't had sex with someone else, then we're good. And so I think just having a clear conversation about what constitutes a boundary crossing and being clear about, like, would I feel comfortable doing this in front of you? If I know that you would have a problem if I did it in front of you, then why am I doing it when you down here? You know what I'm saying?
I want to get everybody be like,
that and then in general, some of the conversations that couples need to have is you need to talk about money. A lot of times couples don't talk about how do you believe in saving? Do you believe that we should invest in taking trips? Like, do you believe that we should take in our in-laws if they're sick? Like, just having real conversations about money, about sex. Like, a lot of couples may not talk about, well, I feel like I'm aroused about once a week. Well, I could do good with once a month. Like, we need to have some of those conversations. Also, your goals. Couples should be talking about, what do you want to accomplish in life? For some people, they may not be that ambitious, and they're like, you know what, I'm good with just doing this right here. I'm not trying to go up there. And so then it becomes a problem when one person wants more out of life and the other person is like, nah, let's just, stay with what we have. And so I think also being willing to compromise, because like one of you all mentioned that you grow. What I wanted when I met my husband at 19 and what I want 17 years later is different. And so we have to be willing to compromise over time as well.
I'm like, oh Lord, geez, I did everything wrong.
Sometimes we also gotta.
You can get it wrong. Like, also know that I can mess up, I can get it wrong, and things are fixable. Most things are figure outable, So that's something too.
And you can find love again. That's it.
Right. Yes.
No, because I say that because I know for myself and for other people that I know very closely, like a lot of times we stay places we don't want to be or that we outgrow because it's like, well, I'm 50, I'm 60, I'm 41, I'm 30, I'm 20, you know, whatever you think is like your ceiling of like, nobody else gonna want me. I'm not gonna be able to get nobody else, because that's a real thing. Don't nobody want to be out here alone. I'm gonna just keep it real.
Well, and
out here for COVID, okay?
I would say probably when you're feeling that the most is probably when you need the most alone time, right? Because you got to figure out what you need to be happy before you can be happy. And the other person can't make you happy if you haven't figured out this stuff inside. And so it's hard. People, like you said, they want to cling to things that are safe. But it takes courage to be happy. It takes courage to experience joy. And so I want people to, you know, have the courage to be happy. And that means that there is nothing in life, there's nothing in nature that stays the same throughout its whole life cycle. And humans are not like that either. So if we don't learn how to grow and change independently and then with someone we care about, we are never going to be happy.
That's a t-shirt, Dr. T. It takes courage to be happy. Ooh.
Dr. Laura, any last words?
I just want to say that I had surgery not too long ago, and when I had surgery, my mom got me a plant. And when I got the plant, I started to notice it was dying. I was like, oh my God, my plant is dying. And I realized that I hadn't been watering it. And I think our relationships have to be watered. And so we have to make sure that we're doing conscious things to grow on a daily basis.
Okay, Star, what say you?
You know, I would say Dr. T's my first one. You know, it takes courage to be happy. That's a revolutionary statement in our society where, you know, it's supposedly if you just happiness is just here. Like if your mind was right, or if you had a good relationship with God, you just be happy. You know, so that's revolutionary. Like I'm gonna meditate on that tonight before I go to bed. And then my second thing, because I always got two things, you know, I have gratitude for, this one is for myself, to myself, from self to self. I have gratitude for my endurance and resiliency and growth in the relationship process, you know, because it, like, even if it don't work out, even if it fail or it's a great success, it takes a lot of courage to be in relationship with other people. And that's when you really get to see who you really are. We have an idea of who we think we are. We have no clue really how we show up in the world until somebody else rubs up against you and is like, no, that ain't, oh, I know you think you're Mother Teresa, but you're not. Until you know, and intimate relationships tend to bear that out in the most out of anything. So I'm just saying resilient in this, you know, in this journey.
I think I'd close out with just saying, similar to what Dr. Laura said in the beginning, is oftentimes infidelity is the tip of the iceberg. It is, you know, what you think brought you there, but as you peel back the onion, there's some other pieces, you know, that has contributed to possibly what you would call the brokenness of your marriage. And so, you know, I think that if people were more willing to take a look at, you know, similar to Star and Dr. T, like just how have we collectively gotten to a certain place and have the courage to really be honest, you know, and I gotta drill down the honesty of, like, not only, you know, what you want, but who you are. I think that we perhaps could start living beyond the hashtag and start looking at living more fulfillment within our marriages, within our relationships, and just having a lot of conversation prior to, because like I always tell people, to me, my opinion, you know, love, that emotion is ever changing. I mean, it's never constant. And I think we often get fixated on the constant idea of what we think it's supposed to be, rather than how it evolves. Because even our love, you know, being a mom, like my love has changed in different ways, you know, for my children. So, you know, I encourage people to just, you know, take a look at that. Like, what do you really want? And as you all have said, sometimes answering that question is the scary part. When sometimes you know what you want, you just are afraid to have it. So With that said, we appreciate you, Dr. Laura. Thanks for being on. This is Amerikan Therapy. Follow us all platforms, and we out.
All right, that's it.